Welcome to the Infinite and Beyond, the MIT Alumni Show. I'm your trusted host, Rob Kalwarowsky, MIT Class of 2010, world-renowned executive coach, author, and speaker. Each week, we are sharing the stories with our friends and classmates, fellow MIT alumni who've taken action to shape the world. We'll share what we've learned, top strategies, and bring our community together to help everyone achieve our goals. No, this show is not officially affiliated with MIT, so any views expressed on this show are of the host and guest only. This show is designed to build a community that trusts, connects, and shares with each other so we can all take action towards a better world. Let's get rolling. Welcome to the Infinite and Beyond MIT Alumni Show. I'm your host, Rob Kalwarowsky, and of course, we have another special guest, another 2010. Cathy Melnikow is here with us. She's the founder of CM2 Squared, a marketing company that focuses on helping businesses get HubSpot up and running and maximize the value of marketing. Cathy, how are you?
Doing good.
Cathy, of course, we'll let you talk a little bit about your business later on in the show, but we want to focus, obviously, this show on where you've been, where you're going, and there. So why don't we start there? What's your journey been like since you graduated MIT?
It's been a little bit all over the place. So immediately following graduation, I remember I had the decision to move to California and work for some company or stick around Boston and work for Philips Healthcare, which is a huge multinational organization. And even though the other job looked a lot cooler, I decided to stick around Boston because I realized when would I be so close to so many of my friends ever again in my life. I had a lot of friends that were 2011s and then a whole bunch of 2010s where I'm ending. So I feel like that was the start of my career, but I was also the start of my philosophy of taking advantage of the moments in life and these different phases that we're in. And I was really glad I did it. The job was not my favorite, but I made a lot of friends and I got to be here with all the people I cared about. So following that, I worked for Philips for about 3 years, and about 2 years in, they decided to do mass layoffs, which they do every 2 years or so. And I was going to be one of the people that was cut. And I was thrilled. I really hated my job, but didn't quite know how to quit my first job, as I'm sure a lot of people have felt before. And I decided, I'm like, well, if I'm going to get severance and I'm going to be paid to do nothing, I might as well do something useful. So I made the decision that during the severance period of 3 months, I would go volunteer somewhere. Because if I'm going to be paid, you might as well, great time to do volunteering. And in the end, I got laid off and they decided to keep me around. But I was able to negotiate that I'd still do a month of volunteer work down in Brazil. And so I went to Brazil for a month while working and did some volunteering, and it was awesome. And it was my first time to Brazil, and I realized that the country really resonated with me, the way the people communicate, interact with one another. Yeah, I loved everything about it. So following that month in Brazil, I came back to my job and still really did not enjoy it. And I'm like, what should I do next? And in the back of my head, I said, oh, you should move to Brazil. And I'm like, that's silly. I don't speak Portuguese. And then a few months later, I'm like, I really, really need to leave my job now. And I'm like, well, what should I do? I'm like, I think I still want to move to Brazil. And so I decided to take the little step, which was, let's just see how somebody can get a job internationally in Brazil. I just didn't even know how it worked. So I reached out to the MIT Alumni Network, actually, found a couple of folks there, sent them a message, and 2 hours later, one of them responded. And he's like, oh, I'll chat with you this weekend. And after a quick conversation, he's like, yeah, you should just come work for me. I'm like, well, that was easy. So about 8 months later, I got my visa and moved myself to Brazil and worked for this advertising agency in São Paulo for a couple of years. And it was a pretty phenomenal experience. It was just, yeah, I loved the work. I loved the people I got to work with. I loved learning about the new culture and just seeing how people think differently and place different values on different parts of life. Yeah, so after a couple years of being in Brazil, I decided to give America a chance again and moved back up here and lived in Boston, where I still am, and worked for HubSpot, which does a big CRM. I worked there as an implementation specialist for about 3 years maybe, and then shifted over to startup as like this crazy fintech startup where I was doing marketing. And I think when people talk about, I don't know, when I watch Silicon Valley, I like really get it now. And there are like so many ups when you're working at a startup, and these like really unique, wonderful experiences and great bonding with the people around you. But there's also like a lot of deeply things that hurt when you watch them happen and you see the decisions made and why they're made. So I got to like get the real life experience of being at a startup that was all over the place. And then finally, I got to where I am today. Leaving the startup, I chose to be unemployed for 9 months was my goal, because I think you should enjoy all the breaks between these different jobs because you don't necessarily get that many in life. And while I was in this fun employment period, a friend of mine asked if I wanted to do this career design course. And I'm like, sure, friend, for you, I'd do anything. I'll like join this career design course with you. And it was somehow tied to MIT, where it's like only offered to MIT alums, and you like get together in small groups and talk about what's important to you and your values, and you get to like help each other make decisions on what would be valuable in your career. And so after doing this, I didn't really expect to learn much. I expected that I would be advised to like go get the next job in tech, work for 2 years, and then rage quit. Like it's never been rage quitting, but get frustrated and then leave. But yeah, while I was in this course, everybody in the group was like, Cathy, you should really open your own business. Everything about your values and your way of life and what's important to you and your risk averseness or riskiness, I guess, like all those just point to being a solo entrepreneur or having your own business. And it was really something I'd never thought about before. So with their inspiration, I was like, well, you know, if I'm going to take 9 months off, I can just take a year off and see if there's anything I'd be interested in doing in those extra 3 months. So I spent about 3 months kind of like after taking a real break, trying to figure out what would I want to do if I'd open my own business? What would it look like? Could I get clients? Would I want to have a product? And I ended up talking to enough people and realizing that doing marketing consulting, which is pretty much what I'd done for the last many years of my career, could be something that I could do on my own. And so you get one client and you start considering yourself like a business owner and an entrepreneur, and you start telling people that what you do is marketing consulting, and then other clients start coming in. So from there, it's now been about 3.5 years that I've been working as a marketing CRM automation consultant, and it's been great.
When you were at MIT, did you feel like you were the only one who didn't belong? Do you compare yourself with successful classmates? Do you feel like you're constantly needing to do more to feel like you're enough? Many of us feel that. I felt it too, but you don't have to feel that way anymore. You can get better results, achieve more, and feel more fulfilled doing it. I can say that because I've done it, and I coach my clients to do it too. I use scientifically proven methods, including internal family systems, values-based leadership, and habit-building techniques to transform your psychology and your life. These trusted strategies will get you results quickly, in some cases, even in our first session, and they'll last you for years. Now, my coach isn't just about learning. It's about taking action and creating results. Results that'll boost your confidence, unlock doors to opportunities you never thought possible, and equip you with strategies that only a select few ever master. But here's the thing, the longer you wait, the more opportunities slip by. Imagine what your life could look like just weeks from now. Having taken the first step, take action now. Go to robkalwarowsky.com and book a complimentary call with me. Amazing.
the long-winded tale.
No, it's great, and there's a few things here. First is obviously everyone on the show now. It just sounds like an advertisement for moving to South America.
Would recommend.
But also the other thing is just like this is where if folks go back in the archives, you'll be able to listen to the episode with Rosto Rotz, and he talks about working with a coach, and of course I work with folks like this too. But it's over your lifetime, you can look at the decisions you make and whether they were good or bad, not good or bad necessarily in terms of like quote unquote results, but in terms of how they made you feel. And that's where you can start to identify values. And so, like, if you look at you, Cathy, it's like you moved to Brazil. Like, it's pretty risky to do that. I mean, in some areas, but you did it because you wanted to explore life. You wanted to get freedom. You wanted to, take a different path. And then that's where, like, obviously later in life, folks were saying, hey, hey, like, this is something that you naturally do or gravitate towards. And so, if folks are out there and you're like, hey, where do I start for a career pivot? You can literally start for just looking at your life and distinguishing your values. Or another way to do it is just go online. There's a list of like 200 values and filter that list down to 10. I also recommend is once you take that list of 10, distill it down to 2. Because as probably everybody knows, since we're an MIT audience, the human brain can only take 5 to 6 inputs. And so when you have 10 values or, 5 to 10, it's very hard for you to make decisions because it's at that range where now we need a computer to help us. But if you have 2, it's pretty easy. And so for me, at this moment, of course, your values can change all the time. At this moment, my values are freedom and security. So when I'm making decisions, I'm filtering it through that lens of how do I increase my freedom or how do I increase my security, both financially, from a perspective of my home, my family, like that kind of thing.
Yeah. I think also when trying to make these more, I don't know, courageous decisions or bigger ones, big shifts, some of the best advice I got when deciding to move to Brazil was a friend of mine in MIT 2011. He was like, Cathy, if you go to Brazil and you're there for like 2 weeks and you hate it, just come back. We like you here. And it was like the best advice ever because it really took away the fear. Like the only one that cared whether or not I was in Brazil was me. And really all the people in the US that were my friends and family that cared about me, they'd prefer if I was nearby, not like off in a different country. They supported me going because they thought it was important for me and it was something I wanted to do. Like if today you decided that Costa Rica wasn't for you and you wanted to move back, I don't think your family would be like, oh, but you said you were going to be there for a while. They'd be like, cool, welcome home. And so I think it like makes some of these things a lot less scary. And like even starting the own business, it's like, if it doesn't work, it's fine. You like have to deal with it personally. But if you realize that there's nobody who cares too much about like what you're doing as long as you're happy and enjoying yourself and like stable and I guess like you said living to your values. So if you are having this flexible life and you have security, it doesn't matter where you are, and I think all the people that care about you would know that. I think like that takes a lot of the weight off of it where it's just like if I can get over this then no one else minds.
It's funny because I had the same thought as the 11 who recommended it was when we had never been to Costa Rica before. So we closed our renting in Edmonton. We sold our stuff. Like we packed 4 suitcases and Winston, and we had a retreat booked for 1 week, and then I had booked Airbnbs down the coast for 4 weeks. And that was literally my thought was like, okay, so if we do this 4 weeks and it's terrible, I can just buy plane tickets and go back.
And then you're home.
And it's like, I mean, I did the one thing I didn't understand exactly was taking Winston back and forth is a huge pain in the ass because he's a dog and you have to do the rabies, like you have to get the vets and the signatures and all the things. So it's a little more complex than that. But if you don't have a dog, it's like literally like what your friend said is absolutely true, right? It's like you can go down to Brazil and it's like, hey, if it's not for me, I can just like, assuming you have, $1,000 or something, right? It's like I can just book a plane ticket back,
Mm-hmm.
right? And it's like that's where when I work with folks on career pivots, I always do what I call micro experiment. And so it's like, what's the cheapest, fastest way you can try something? And if you don't like it, that's cool.
Mm-hmm.
And so like I had a client, he loved woodworking. It wasn't like he was going to pivot his career. It was just something he was thinking about. And he was like, okay, on the weekend, during the week, after work, I can work on woodworking and then can sell my stuff on the weekends. And then if it starts to become bigger, then maybe I think about quitting my job, right? Or, have a client, he's an engineer and he loves stand-up comedy. And it was like, well, how do we start doing this,
Mm-hmm.
right? And so these are the things where folks out there, it's like, if you put on that lens of scientific thinking, like you have a hypothesis, you want to test it, you want to see basically what you feel, then you can iterate from there, right? And so what's the cheapest way you can verify, cheap and fast, that you can verify your hypothesis? That's where you can start entering these loops where, hey, Cathy, I could try being a business owner. I'm already I have severance. So maybe I try this for 6 months or 3
Mm-hmm.
months and I see if I can get some clients. And if not, well, okay, I can go look for another job, right? Like these are the things you can do. Yeah.
Yeah. No, it's pretty great. I think realizing that there isn't any set requirements or set path and you can kind of like make things up as you want is both terrifying and really empowering.
So how do you get over that feeling that it's terrifying?
I think you just do it. I feel like it brings me back to the days when I was a kid and you were like scared to dial the phone to your friends and then you just typed in the numbers, closed your eyes, and you called somebody. It's just, I think if there's something like it's not going to happen on its own. And so it's just like if you want to do something and you're curious if it's going to help you or whatever. And I think the things I do usually are like do the little steps that make it feel easy. So I think like even when moving to Brazil, the first thing I did was saying, well, how does someone move to Brazil? And I'm like, well, I either have to work for a big company and get transferred, I have to like apply to a job in Brazil, which I like don't even know anything, or I talk to somebody who can maybe like answer this question for me that already knows it. And so I emailed the alumni network and was like, okay, emailing the people on the alumni network wasn't that scary. I was just like asking, how does somebody move to a country that you love? And then getting on the call with somebody was not scary because I was like, oh, I'm just gonna like chat with somebody. And then when they give you the next step of like, oh, now you like might have a real job. Now it like starts to, each step is like very logical. And so it didn't take that much effort to do any one of the steps, but you had to get the ball rolling.
It's 100% great strategy. And here's the thing for folks out there. This is my number one career success goal achievement tip. All of those things. Who are the 10 people that you need to meet or want to meet that can help you achieve your goals? Right? And for you, Cathy, it was people who run businesses in Brazil or people who, live there and they know folks around there, right? For other folks, it's, venture capitalists, it's other entrepreneurs, it's, executives at certain companies that you want to work at, right? But if you identify those 10 people or even an avatar of a person, I'm looking for tech executives in Boston, right?
Yeah.
Then you can start finding those people. LinkedIn makes it wildly easy, right? But then building those relationships. And then that's where you can start getting in those spaces that you want to get into, which obviously, as you know, as you've experienced, it opens up opportunities. And so that's why literally I know I ask everybody on this show, right? But I also ask it in the pre-call, right? It's like, who can I introduce you that will help you? And it's like, because hosting shows, I've hosted podcasts for a long time. Like I know a lot of people through my work, through other things. And it's like, that's the easiest way for me to make an impact in someone else's life is I can introduce you to so-and-so.
Yeah, definitely.
So Cathy, I guess on that question, who are you looking to meet?
Oh man, I know you told me to prepare for this. I failed you.
So I mean, the question we always ask for everybody on this show, right, is we're, we're going to be at the reunion that's coming up in May. And really what I wanted this show to be was a place where we can start moving the ball on community and also helping each other so then we can all succeed more, achieve our goals, whether that's financial, professional, whatever, or just like lifestyle, right? Hey, I want to move to Brazil, right? So that's where I wanted folks who come on to be like, how can the community of 2010s help you?
Yeah, I think I know. I think I'm pretty good at trying to stay in touch with all like my friends, and I'm not too afraid to reach out to people that I've known in college or throughout the years, especially if they would be able to help me or a friend, or I think I can help them. So I try to do that pretty regularly. But I think, I don't know, one of this is a little bit different from like who I'd want to meet or how I could help them. But I think something I found when staying in touch with people is like one, everybody that we went to school with, you like share this really specific experience and we have a lot in common. And never once have I contacted anyone from college and not had like a great experience catching up with them. And there's a lot of people that I've met after school, and all we did was remember that we recognized each other on the street, and then we became friends again because, again, you shared this like big, deep experience. And so I think it's like much more encouragement of everybody to reach out to those people that you when somebody pops into your head for whatever reason, just like send them a message and reach out. And even if it's just like a small history that you shared, I think it's like very easy to like reconnect with people and reconvene. And I think being honest also about, I think it's hard when I don't know what it's like. We missed our 10-year reunion, so you don't know what it's like to see people 15 years after you last saw them. And something I've always been impressed with everybody I've ever run into is I don't think people try to overstate their life or who they are, what their existence is like. And I think it's really reassuring because it's nice to like show up to these people that you used to be very honest with about what was going on, like your struggles at school and your struggles with your personal life and whatever else. And I think it's really nice that if we can come back now 15 years later and be just as open about it, like, yeah, I might be working this big time job, but like it's pretty hard. And like the things I worry about are the fact that like I need to work on having more hobbies, or like I am shy about this. And I think helping everybody to realize they're not alone in it is really nice because everybody struggles with something. And I think when talking to all my friends, it's like we all have different little things that are hard for us and things that we're good at. And like all parts of that is the human experience. So I guess I am around if anyone wants to chat about pretty much anything. But I'd hope everybody just connects with each other a little bit more too and sees which people from your like friends that you don't see all too often that'll be around, and just step up and chat with them.
Totally. Yeah. And so if you want to get Cathy, I've dropped her LinkedIn in the podcast notes. Obviously, her website, cm2squared.com, is also there. So you can just connect with her on LinkedIn and send her a DM. But Cathy, I won't let you avoid the question. But this is real, right? It's incredibly hard for folks who have been raised as high achieving folks, right, to ask for help. And so this is part of why I want to do it, because also the folks who are listening are like, they're incredibly connected, they're incredibly supportive, they're incredibly smart, they're incredibly everything. And so, Cathy, how can the 2010s support you?
Okay. So the one thing I've really been trying to figure out in recent years is like how to, it's going to sound like very not quite pretentious, but I really want to know how to like donate and help. Like we're at the point now where we have or at least I'm able to give money and I would love to do so, but I'm like so scared of wasting all the stuff I worked really hard for. And so I would love to find a way to like support a community or the world or like different organizations, but I don't actually know what are good ones and how to find good ones and how to tell myself like this is a worthwhile use of my funds and money. And I'm sure MIT would tell me to just give it to them, but it's a different story.
Might I recommend Olga Botvinnik? She was on the show and she started her own nonprofit, cnome.org. And so she's raising funds so she can work on mapping the genome of ocean biodiversity.
Very cool option.
There you go. And you can talk to her as well if you'd like.
Totally.
But yeah, I mean, it's depending. Also, let me know if you have any more specifics on how, because I know a few folks that do nonprofit stuff. I know also Camo does, or he's connected with a lot of folks that do philanthropy. So that's another option for you as well.
Mm-hmm.
There we go. We solved some of the problems.
Yeah, one step closer at least.
Yeah. So Cathy, I mean, tell us a little bit about CM2 Squared and what do you do for businesses?
Sure. So my business, it's just me and I work with clients. Usually they come up to me and they say, hey, most of my clients use HubSpot and they'll say, I'm hoping to make decisions based upon data. Or they'll say, I really want to automate everything and we don't know how to do that. And so I help them kind of solve both those problems. And usually they're very closely tied together because it's all based upon like, you need to have clear processes in order to have reliable data for making business decisions. And you need to have clear processes in order to be able to automate anything. So I work with them to help develop like all the processes and funnels and then help them to build that out in this platform and then enable them to automate everything.
So for folks out there, of course, if that sounds like something you need, of course, you can hit Cathy up. Now, Cathy, I would like to ask you, what are some of your top pieces of advice for our friends and colleagues out there?
Let's see. I think most of my advice is tied to more of the human experience than work. But I think it's like, one, I firmly believe that when you think of somebody, you should tell them because I don't think we connect with the people in our lives, especially the ones that we're loosely connected to often enough. And so I think I always love it when people message me randomly out of the blue, and I'm quite certain everybody does. So I think that's important. Two, I also talked about this, but I think like enjoying your exact stage of life and enjoying it while you're in it is very important because never again will we be this age. And there are some things that like you can do really well at this age. And there's like, I don't know, some people have kids and their kids are never going to be that young again. Or some people don't have kids and are going to have them someday and you're never going to not have kids again. And there's like people that, I don't know, every part of your life is like very specific right now. And there's certain things you can do that you won't be able to do in a future state. So I use that usually as a motivation to like do things today because I realize that your life stage is going to change. And at another life stage, you're not going to be able to do the things you could right now. So it's kind of like take advantage of the moment while you can. Yeah.
I just have to say, I love that advice.
Thanks.
Yeah. It's something that, I mean, that's part of I think what I hear through a lot of this episode is it's actually what the foundation of my coaching is self-leadership. And it's making choices based on not this picture of who Rob needs to be for the world, but who I actually am.
Mm-hmm.
And it obviously led me to quitting corporate, moving to Costa Rica, even led me to getting married, to be honest, and like doing TED and writing a book and all these things. But it's like, I am happier now than I have been ever. Right. And I think it's not about like my business is not doing that great, right? I'm just starting. But it's like, it's more about creating that path, right? And in a couple of years, I'm sure it's going to be great, right? Because that takes time and all these things, right?
Mm-hmm.
But it's like giving yourself the permission to choose based on what you want is really the key piece. And there's so much stuff in our psychology that prevents us from doing this. And we have a lot of it. That's why we got into MIT. Because we're all high achievers. We're all perfectionists. We're all, out to get, 100. And then I know everyone experienced this, right? Is we were 100 students or A students in high school. We were the best in our class. We were the best at everything. And then it was like, yeah, now you're going to get 30% on an exam. Right. And it's like, that's a shock. And it was for me. I know, like, we've never talked about it. But I know it was for you too, Cathy. Right.
That's for
but
sure.
it's like learning ourselves and getting out of that. Not necessarily like your career path. You could love being a management consultant. You could love being an investment banker. I'm not here to tell you what to do, but you got to love it. And that's the part. And if you don't love it, then it's okay, what can I create, or what can I switch to, or what can I pivot to that I will like, right? And that's where
I
the
think
micro
a part of that,
experiments come.
though, is
Yeah.
I feel like we all need to work because you need to have enough money to survive. So if that's like the most basic thing that you're looking for, I think there's maybe I have like a little bit different take that like your job doesn't have to be the thing that you love. Your job can be the thing that provides you the means to do the things that you love. And so like the person you talked about that loved woodworking, it's like maybe all they need is a job that's like allows them to get home and get to a workshop every day because that's what they want to do in their free time. And they're able to like work more on their artistic pursuits better because they don't have the stress of a job that they take home with them. And I think that's, I don't know, I think the push to always like find a job that you love. Yeah, maybe it's like a little bit more of our responsibility because we went to MIT and we are the big, like the big minds of the future. But I don't know, I think it's like finding a life that you enjoy and like matches what's important to you. Because I think like if you are very risk averse, it's hard to, like, you want the stability. And so I definitely wouldn't recommend being a solo entrepreneur if you're very risk averse because you're just going to be far more stressed out. Even if you have more flexibility, it's not going to be beneficial to you. So yes, I think it's
You're
like
bang
enabling
on,
the life you
right?
love.
That's exactly right. Yeah. I guess I said it wrong, but you're absolutely right. And it's creating that, but right, is like, if you know that, then I'm not doing 100-hour weeks.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah,
Because
exactly.
I'm putting the time in to, create the space for whatever I want to do at night. Right. Or be with my kids or all these things. And so
Mm-hmm.
you're absolutely 100% right. It's the whole picture.
Yeah, totally. Which, of course, it's hard to know what's important to you. We're just starting to figure it out, I think.
Yeah. It's all, but it's starting to look inwards. Right. And it's not what we're trained to do. But as we start to look inwards, and even, right, like for folks out there, I can help you do this. You can read books to help you do this. There's a lot of options out there that can help you do this. But it's starting to think about your life and like what were the decisions that you really were like, wow, that was amazing. And what were the ones that was like, oh, that kind of sucked, right? And you can look for those patterns, and then that'll help you with your values, but also will help you with like, what do I truly love? What is the things that I need to add more, right? And like job crafting for folks out there is like the easiest, quickest way to do things. It's not don't quit your job, don't do anything, but it's like how can I lean into things that I like at work and lean out of things that I don't like? Make shifts. Not like, obviously you can't like get rid of your responsibilities unless you can delegate and do these things, right? But it can be small things.
Yeah, definitely.
Awesome. Cathy, I got to ask you the big question before we get you out of here. How would you like to impact the world?
Yeah, it's a good question. I remember when we were at MIT, everybody would always just say like, "Oh, we want to change the world," and then we never had to answer how. So thanks for bringing that one back. I don't know. I think I'd be very satisfied if the way I changed the world was through like the people in my community and my friends and my family. And I was always here for them and able to like empower the people that I care about to do things that they love. So I don't feel like I have this need to necessarily change the world on a huge, broad scale. But I think impacting those that I'm connected to and helping them get through their hard times and maybe inspiring them to do things, I'd be pretty happy with that.
I love it. Folks, Cathy Melnikow, cm2squared.com. You can also, her LinkedIn's in the podcast notes. Cathy, thank you so much for joining us. It was incredible to have you on the show.
What a pleasure. And we'll
Everyone
see you
out
all
there,
in May.
That's right. Everyone out there, thanks for listening. We'll see you in May. And also, we'll be back next week.